Well, hello and welcome to Communicate with Power. I have no idea how many episodes we've done, but we've always enjoyed them and we hope you are too. I am joined by my co host, of course, Laura Peck. Laura, welcome.
Hello, hello.
All right. Now, Laura, right away, I'm noticing something here, and that is this amazing t shirt that says CBU. Maybe
Yeah.
time for a bit of an explanation about that.
Well, I'm from Cape Breton, and this time next week, we will be in Cape Breton teaching a course called Get Your Message Across in an Age of Uncertainty. So, we did a form of this course last year. So, because it's the two of us doing this, we always update and add all kinds of new stuff, as well as CBU. That team has been fantastic in helping us get the word out. So we're going to teach it again next week. So that's why I'm wearing my Cape Breton University t-shirt.
Right. And we should mention, of course, that it's the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University, which we have taught. I think 2019 was the first year we taught a course there. And this is, like you say, it's a 1 day course, which is that's 6 hours of training broken by 1 hour lunch break. But you know what? It flies by. And it's what's known as dual mode. Although I noticed at Cape Breton University, they tend to refer to those as hybrid, and I have in the past done that. But dual mode means, of course, it's in person as well as online. And so we'd love to have our viewers and listeners check that out. We will leave a connector point. It's actually cbu.ca/events. And it's an event right there. And we'd love to see you participate in this event. Well, speaking of events and speaking of get your message across in an age of uncertainty, this has been a particularly uncertain time, Laura, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's an overused word, of course, thematically, but boy, talk about uncertainty. And there's so many things that have happened this week, good, bad, and ugly. We might start.
Good for us. We had
yeah.
had a good May and June.
Yeah. Now we've been very busy ourselves. Of course, we've done a lot of seminars in the past couple of months for several different agencies of government, as well as private and nonprofit sectors, and some private coaching as well. So we've been very busy, and we just have this one coming up on June 27th in Cape Breton University. But you know, we look at that as a combination of great elements that come together. Not only I was going to say your home country, but that would be inaccurate. Your home, really, in Sydney Mines, the home of some pretty famous people, by the way. The Barry McLoughlins, the Rankin family,
Bruce Guthrow,
the late Bruce Guthrow. And Laura, what's your line about yourself?
I'm the only person who doesn't have a recording contract in Sydney.
Exactly. All those other Sydney miners. Yeah. So anyway, we're looking forward to that. All right. Uncertainty. Let's start off with, I guess we'll start off with the big thing. The G7 leaders met, of course, including our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and of course, President Trump, in which he tends to attract a lot of the attention, a lot of the focus, a lot of the, would you say, tiptoeing around him, meaning that they weren't really this time, there was nobody really directly confronting him there. And they were kind of willing to overlook. He'd come in late. And, you know, like you would normally, if you came in late for an event, like a dinner party, whatever, or a seminar, you would just stare at the rest of them and say, you know, I'm the boss. You would do that. Wouldn't that be a normal thing for people to do? I'm the boss. So there's not even a hint of apology, right?
I, in fact, have never seen anybody at any time ever do that. And what's even more extraordinary is that the Italian Prime Minister was known to have been able to get along with him. And even she had to get her message across and straighten out because he put out a story about her that was completely untrue.
Yeah, so Georgia Maloney, you know, we did see video of them, but no audio of kind of an engaged conversation. It's hard to say what it was. I don't think it was anger or whatever, but it was an engaged one-on-one conversation on the sidelines of the G7. And then he posts something that I'm sure all women being photographed him would just love to read. She begged me to take a photograph with her. She begged me. What do women think of when a man does that and posts a photo? Like, is that a positive thing? What would you call that?
there's nothing good about that. It's all negative. And I gotta say, though, she had an incredible moment because non-verbally, we were trying to figure out what was her body language
Mhm.
saying. Because at first she did the sort of, elbows out. She's only, I think she's a very a woman of a smaller stature,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and he always thinks that he can overpower
Sure, he's
everybody.
towering over her,
Because
yeah.
that's right. But then she wags her finger at him to
Mm.
say, "You can't say that I was asking to have my picture with you.
Begging.
It's
Oh, no,
not
no.
true."
He wasn't just asking. She wasn't just asking, according to her. She was begging. I mean, it's a way to just so diminish a person. In that case, in this case, a woman. She was begging me to do it. And given his own personal unsavory background when it comes to how he's treated women, we won't even get into that here in this seminar. But you'd think he'd be a lot more sensitive about the way you characterize women. So, Georgia Maloney, this is for you. You did an amazingly courageous job of just pushing right back on him, and really how outrageous she really went at him. And I thought very effectively. If he does it again, then he's a complete fool, for sure. But moving on then from G7, so Mark Carney was there. He didn't have a one-on-one with President Trump, and everybody's always, that's the real measure here. He's got to have he's got to have a one-on-one. Well, he didn't. They had a couple of there's a hot mic moment where he's kind of persuading the president that allowing China to sell 49,000 electronic vehicles into Canada it's less than 3% of the amount of vehicles sold. It's not a big deal. And actually, Trump seemed to accept that as if he didn't know it. Well, okay, fair enough. He didn't know that. He seemed to be acceptable of that, but that was all done on a hot mic, which is kind of intriguing. But they never did have the one-on-one. Now here we are, Laura, within basically 10 days of the July 1st, kickstart of the formal negotiations over CUSMA, or as the Americans call it, the USMCA. And we are going to find out, is that going to be a full-scale negotiation, point by point, product by product, or will it be a sweeping, because he made it pretty clear that he doesn't even want to sign one. Whether he does, that's all part of it. Hard to tell with him. Is that a negotiating tactic? It probably emotionally he feels that way, but really in the end, is he just going to 10% on you or 20% on everything? Is he going to just go to one of those things? That's up in the air. So this mattered a lot. How do you think Mark Carney overall came across at the G7?
He says that he had about 8 interactions with him and felt that he made his point with him. And he also knows that even if the U.S. backs out, there are legally the other countries that we're involved with. We could carry on if we have to legally with the other countries, and that doesn't expire for a long, long time. So, his whole messaging so far has been, I'm
Yeah.
communicating with them. What can we do? That's our geography. But at the same time, we have to be making sure that we can do business with other countries.
Well, that's what he's really spending his time on, right? He's going around the world. By the way, a lot of criticism in Canada. A certain percentage are criticizing him for daring to go off on these jaunts everywhere, the way they characterize it. He has to report on how much he's spent on meals, and it does seem like a lot. But then you realize it's often a plane load full of,
Yeah.
aides, a plane full, there's reporters. There's all kinds of people on board this, but nevertheless, we live in a transparent world, and that's good. So he
And the
takes.
and the Irish trip was entirely successful.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, we should talk about that. I wore my green
it
shirt.
was
Kind of, yeah. Okay, so he hops over for the weekend in between major events, and he flies into Dublin. He does a speech there, appearance at Trinity College, does Q's and A's. He's there signing very important documents with the not only the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, but also the incoming President of the EU, coming up starting in July. So he has a number of roles and reasons for being there. Then he flies over to County Mayo, and you and I know that well. We spent time in Westport. We spent time in and around Mayo a number of years ago with the children, and it was a very enjoyable trip. Mayo is a wonderful place. I know I have a relative there because there was a busy main street in Westport, and a lovely store, and a huge big sign above it, McLoughlin. So of course I had to go in,
And
and I'm looking at the one
when a,
behind.
yeah, and when a reporter met one of Prime Minister Carney's relatives, she did the Irish thing of saying, "Oh yes, and he looks exactly like my grandfather,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we're second cousins. And if you'd like to go talk to my mother, she's a restful lady. She's over there underneath a tree. If you'd rather talk to her."
yeah.
And the whole thing became about, because that's the
Yeah,
way Ireland is.
yeah.
It's just,
Well, okay, so just all right. So I go in the store. There's a woman right behind the counter. I'm looking at my one of my aunts, on the father's side of the family. That looks like one of his sisters. I say to her, I'm McLaughlin, da da da, Ireland, did the whole connected thing, lived in Canada most of my life. But she was like, as if 100 people had said that to her. So she's like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know. Uh, she didn't have a lot of curiosity, but I wonder if so we didn't it wasn't a long conversation, but I could tell by her eyes we are related. So I know my grandfather came from County Cavan, kind of next door. But Mayo is one of those kind of uh, counties that it could well be possible that we have a number of relatives there too. So anyway, it was a great. I actually I loved how he handled everything. He gave a nice touch personally. Yes, of course he's got relatives, but his people of Ireland loved him. They came from all over Ireland. People came from abroad even. They wanted to be there, and he didn't disappoint. That's for sure. And I
yeah.
thought Diana Fox Carney did a great job with him. It's hard for her to kind of fit directly into that, but she did a good job. You don't have to do a lot, but you've got to kind of go with the flow of that. And I thought she did really quite well.
Yeah, and Irish Ambassador John Concanan and
Mm.
his wife Mary did a fantastic
Oh,
job of
yeah,
making this happen all over the place. It was on many different education, trade, business, on many levels. It was extraordinarily successful.
well, I know that it will stay in history. I mean, John F. Kennedy's visit to Ireland, to Wexford, where his grandparents came from, his people came from, and that's in the history books. Beautiful film of it. And we were actually in Galway where he had given a speech, and there's still a plaque there about exactly where he gave the speech. So these are very meaningful, yes, on a personal level. But I stood up for it. A couple of people taking shots at him. I said, you know what? Ireland, Irish people are very used to over centuries of being treated like, used goods secondhand. What a waste. Like what a waste came up a number of times. And I stood up for the Irish people. I stood up for him going there. It's one of our top trading countries, and a lot of jobs in Ireland come from Canadian companies, and some vice versa, and we want to do more. So to really diss that, I'm pretty sensitive about that. I guess I came over here as an Irish immigrant myself with an Irish accent you can cut with a knife, and you can't help but feel sensitive when they're kind of slagging you off there that this is nothing. So I don't mind saying I did that, and I'm glad I did that, because if you don't stand up for your people, if you want to say, then who are you? So anyway, I'm proud he did it. I'm glad he did it. So let's turn now to the controversy. I did a radio interview on this, as you know, Laura, on how come he flew to Vancouver from France. He flew all the way to Vancouver to attend the World Cup game with Canada. And what do we think of that? It's terrible. Like there was a ton of, I don't know what the percentages are of these things, but usually a third of the people, knocking him for it. Well, what was your take on that? Do you think that it was justifiable? Do you think that he's going to get hurt by that?
No, I'm sorry that people were just, down on it or whatever. But I think overall it was very successful, because the Carneys are genuinely interested in a lot of sport. They
Yeah,
love it. They got together that way a long
yeah,
time ago. They've always been like that for as long as we have known them. And I mean, it was such an incredible game, also.
Yeah, it's an amazing game.
Canada did so well. And we've been watching. I bet you right now you have it on TV while you're talking to
Oh
me.
yeah. Oh, but only concentrating on you. That's irrelevant to me, Laura. The World Cup there, but no. By the way, it is interesting that
I'm all right with it, by the
yeah,
way,
no, no,
because we watch
become
all the major
you have
things.
become a fanatic of
Yes.
soccer. Football is its own internationally, but and I became one. Not all that long ago. I
And
loved
horse
sport
racing.
and horse racing. There we are watching. What was her
Royal Ascot
Royal
this
Ascot?
morning.
Yes, and it was just so. I wish I had a top hat like that.
Yeah. I have
But
one. I have
yeah, I
one.
know
It's
you do.
my
Your
grandfather.
grandfather's, but you know what? I think these are all great things. The amount of not just dollars in tourism, but this gets people away from the that's going on around the world. Even for half an hour, 2 hours watching a game. I thought I commented on this. Prime Minister went into the dressing room and spoke to all the players.
Oh,
And to the hero, Jonathan David, got the hat trick. Got the hat trick, and paid tribute to Ishmael Kone, who really was
held
one
up
of
the
the
T-shirt.
broke
Oh,
his leg, and so I really thought that he did the right thing in doing this. And yes, people said he should have been back. It was the last day of the sitting of the House of Commons for the summer. Well, okay, but he also went there to make a housing announcement. And by the way, sidebar: this is never mentioned, but a prime minister cannot fly at taxpayers' expense to strictly a football game. Okay. He is flying from France to Vancouver for a housing announcement in Vancouver. And oh, yes, he has the evening free to go to, or the afternoon free to go to the World Cup soccer. And so that's always done because, we're not quite like the presidency of the United States. Just go anywhere. No, it actually, there's got to be a business oriented reason. Even in Ireland, there were business oriented reasons.
yeah.
Economic.
We won, and when the president went to the Knicks game, they lost. Now, overall, the Knicks, yeah.
Which was an
I mean, we
amazing game in
watch
and of itself. Yeah.
like
Now,
our intake of sports and news is
yeah,
pretty
i-
big.
how do we
Uh,
fit this in? I'm not sure, but somehow we do. And I think I think all of this keeps people sane in an insane
yes,
world. And that's why we're doing this seminar on trying to cut through massive amounts of uncertainty, which it breeds anxiety disorders. It breeds a lot of disruption in people's lives, mental state, and even physical state. It is very disruptive, and it is something that we're trying to deal with as a society. It's not just Canada, by the way. United States, UK, Europe, all around the world. Really, this has been going on, and trying to find that. So we keep our focus on the communication side of this. We don't get all political about things. We try to, understand it. What can you do to pierce through this? And the kinds of strategies to take, the kind of messaging. You'll learn about the truth sandwich, which is a technique for wrapping a positive message while at the same time debunking the misinformation or disinformation that's being spread around it. So you're going to learn that. There's a lot of other things, the persuasion ladder. How do you persuade people? And so these are techniques that we have. We always keep it interactive so people can come in online or in person and have their direct questions asked. We will absolutely do it. And there will be exercises, not Barry and Laura lecturing, for 6 hours. We're not doing that. But there will be, and by the way, for the first time ever, a certificate. You will receive a certificate of achievement for doing this. And that can well be something that we hope will be very positive for you and for your careers as well. So that is at cbu.ca/events. And we'd love to see you there. I think it's like $100 if you have nothing to do with Cape Breton University, but still, for a full day course like that, I think you'll find it well worth the value for that. So I want to thank everybody. Is there any final thing we want to say here, Laura?
Happy Father's Day.
Oh my I didn't actually realize you would say that. Yes. Well, I get a little not teary about me as
Yeah.
a father, but we always
Yeah.
think of our own fathers, you know.
Yes.
And then you read these things, and I post a few of them. You know, I have to be careful because I can get a bit emotional about it. Because, you know, as you know, I had a very, very close relationship with my father. In fact, much of what has motivated me in what I do for a living really comes through earliest stage. I mean, I was in elementary school when I began talking about these kinds of things, and certainly in high school and at university, you know, with my dad. And I listened to him, and he was the head of education, learning, education, learning, and development in the government of Canada. And you know, wow, I learned a ton before I ever thought I would even get into this business. And it's really fathers have a great influence, and they weren't perfect. Oh my gosh, let's get all the perfect fathers gathered together. No, they made their share of mistakes, and you know, you learn from your father's positives and mistakes they've made over the years, and not to get, you know. I always think people that sort of when they grow up, they sort of, you know, get kind of blaming their parents, and I always think that's a terrible thing. I mean, I hope you're perfect in your life, but I think that did they try their best, and that's certainly what I would say. So it is Happy Father's Day. It's a genuine feeling to all the fathers out there and the fathers of those fathers and grandfathers of those fathers. I think it's very important to honor fathers. And I know you and I and the three kids are going for our annual Father's Day brunch, and we're looking forward to that tomorrow. But here's to all the fathers out there, and here's to many more years of health and happiness.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, Laura. Until next time, goodbye, everybody.